The first time I heard it, I thought it was a fluke, a glitch in my phone's signal. The second time, I didn't know what to think. And by the third time, I was sure I wasn't alone in my house anymore. I had just moved into the old farmhouse at the edge of town. It was a bargain, given its age and the reputation it had. People said it was haunted, of course, but I wasn't one to believe in ghost stories. I thought I could live in the house for a while, fix it up, and then maybe sell it for a profit. But when I first stepped inside, the house seemed to welcome me. Or perhaps it was something else that called me there. It was an odd place, far from the nearest neighbors, with trees that reached far beyond the yard, as though they were trying to swallow it whole. The inside was dusty, cold, and smelled faintly of something that could have been rot, but I liked the challenge. The old wood floors creaked underfoot, and there were stories woven into every crack in the wallpaper, every faded photograph of people I had never met. On my third night, as I sat in the living room unpacking the last of my things, I heard it, a faint ringing. At first I thought it was the house settling, the sound of a distant bell, but when it grew louder I realized it was my phone. I picked it up, expecting a call from a friend or family member checking on me, but the screen was blank. No caller ID, just a number I didn't recognize. Hesitantly, I answered. "Hello?" There was silence on the other end, and then a low, breathy whisper. It was a woman's voice, but so faint that I could barely make out the words. "Come home." I thought it was a prank call. It had to be. Maybe one of my friends was messing with me, but as I ended the call I noticed something strange. The voice had sounded so real, too real. I tried to shake it off. It was nothing. But that night the whisper returned. Soft, almost inaudible at first, but it grew louder and clearer as the hours passed. "Come home. Come home." The next morning I checked the number. It was untraceable. No record of it anywhere. Was it some sort of malfunction? A glitch? It didn't make sense, but I didn't think much of it at the time. The house was old, and maybe there was something wrong with the wiring. That night, the call came again, and again the following night. Each time, the whisper grew louder. Then the calls stopped coming. I thought it was over. I tried to relax, to enjoy the silence, but the house had started to feel different, unsettling, even when I was alone. There were strange creaks from upstairs that I couldn't explain, the sound of footsteps just out of sight. I started feeling like I was being watched, but no one was there. Then one night, I woke up to the sound of a phone ringing. I glanced at the clock. 3:02 a.m. I wasn't sure if I'd been asleep or if I was still dreaming. The phone screen was lit up, blank again, no number, just the persistent ringing. I picked it up, my hands trembling. "Hello?" A long pause. Then, a voice. The same voice from the calls before, but now it sounded desperate. "You have to come home. Now you're not safe." The line went dead. The voice calling me wasn't just some random woman, it was familiar. Somehow it felt like it was reaching into me, pulling at something deep inside. I felt the hair on my neck stand up. My heart pounded in my chest, but I didn't hang up. Something wasn't right. I stood up, pacing back and forth, unsure of what to do next. My mind raced. This was beyond strange. It was something else, something darker. I hadn't realized how long I had been standing in the middle of the living room until I heard the soft shuffle of footsteps behind me. My breath caught in my throat. The house was empty. I was alone, but the footsteps weren't stopping. I spun around, my pulse racing, and then I saw it. A figure standing in the hallway, silhouetted in the dim moonlight. The figure wasn't moving, just standing there, watching me. The woman from the voice on the phone. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow and dark, her lips moving, but no sound came from her mouth. "Come home," she whispered. I stumbled back, tripping over the furniture in my haste to get away from her. My mind screamed at me to run, to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. The figure stepped forward, and suddenly my phone buzzed in my hand. I looked down, and a message popped up on the screen. "It's too late. She's already here." That was when I realized the house hadn't called me in. I had come here on my own accord, but the house, it wanted me to stay. And now, it had claimed me. I didn't look back as I ran out into the night. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest town, and I haven't returned to that farmhouse since. But sometimes, when I pick up my phone, I see it. A missed call from an unknown number. The message is always the same. "Come home. She's waiting."